Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brendan Dickinson, and today we're going to be talking about how to make money as somebody who develops with game engines. You might be thinking, well, that seems pretty obvious. You make a game company, like this one, and then you build a game, like this, and you sell it for money. And while that's one way to make money, there are a whole bunch of other ways to make money with game engines. So stick with me through this video. Hopefully you'll learn something new. Let's get into it. So I've gone ahead and broken up the video into these different categories. So if you'd like to skip around, feel free to do so. Also, this is based on my personal experience with the Unity and Unreal game engines, but if you're working in a different game engine, most of this video is still going to apply to you. Lastly, this video is more geared towards programmers and developers working within the engine, but if you're in a different discipline, such as music, art, design, etc., most of this video is also going to apply to you as well. So without further ado, let's jump into our first topic. Get a full-time job. Well, you might be thinking, just get a job at a game studio, right? Hold your horses. Here's a controversial take for you. I don't think it's a good idea to get a job, especially a junior level game development job, at a game studio. And before you come at me in the comments, let me explain why. The games industry is rife with burnout, overwork, bad work-life balance, sexual harassment, I'm looking at you, Riot and Blizzard, and much more. The overwork is so bad in the games industry, they have a term for it, crunch time. Crunch time is where people are overworked for an extended period of time that can last up to months in order to meet a deadline. Now, that's not to say that these issues don't exist outside of the games industry, or that there's game companies that are free of all of that, but it's pretty obvious that it's prevalent in the industry. And if we dive a little bit deeper, we can see exactly why that is. There's hardly any regulation or unions when it comes to worker protections in the games industry. And there's an insane amount of young, talented people that are willing to do just about anything to get their foot in the door at a game company. I know, I was one of them. Because of this, companies can churn through new talent very quickly, working them to the bone and replacing them in 6 months to a year or whenever the project is finished. I do think that working conditions at these companies are improving, especially as awareness of all the problems grows, but I still can't recommend that you go this route, especially if you're just getting into developing with these game engines. Okay, so Brendan's over here telling me, get a full-time job. But he's also telling me not to work at a game company. Well, how does that make any sense? Well, you might be surprised to hear that these game engines are perfect tools for companies in just about every industry. Anytime a company would want to visualize or simulate something in 3D or VR, use a game engine. You'd be very surprised how often this happens. Say you want some interactive 3D app to run on multiple platforms, use a game engine. Personally, I've built business applications with game engines for dozens of different companies in just as many industries. Some of the industries that I've done work for include automotive, healthcare, consumer products, film, and of course tech. Some of the companies that I've done work for include Facebook, Oculus, Ford Motor Company, Stryker, Procter & Gamble, Canon, and many more. The point that I'm trying to make is that there's a large demand for people that know their way around these game engines, and it's only growing. The nice thing about working in a different industry is that you are much more likely to get paid more, to have a better work-life balance, to get to work on really unique applications of game engines, and to also learn a lot more about a different industry. Potentially, the only thing that you're missing out on by not working in the games industry is the experience of working on an actual game. But you are getting experience working with your game engine and also solving a lot of the same problems. That's all I'm going to say about the games industry versus the software industry for now. If you'd like me to expand further in another video, let me know in the comments section down below. So, why get a full-time job as opposed to something else? Well, one of the great things that came from this pandemic, in my opinion, is that a lot of software companies are allowing people to just work remotely or work from home full-time. That means you're potentially going to have a lot more options when it comes to finding a job in the software industry, and you won't have to relocate, and you'll be able to work from home every day. In my opinion, this change is great and will allow people to have a lot more freedom moving forward. Also, having a full-time job means that you're going to get a consistent paycheck, usually a benefits package, and have potential to move up or get promotions in the company. The importance of this cannot be understated, and I'll expand more on it later. The cons of working a full-time job means that you're going to be working 40 plus hours a week under somebody else, and most of the time on somebody else's idea. You also might not have that much freedom with putting your own spin or ideas into the product that you're creating. To end this point, I would say if you're a beginner or if you're just now getting into full-time game engine development, then you should get a job in a non-game company. This is going to help you build your skills with the game engine while also getting a good work-life balance, a decent paycheck, and benefits. All right, let's move on to the next topic, contracting and freelance work. Another great way to make money as a game engine dev is to take on some contracts or freelance work. There are several benefits of doing this over a full-time job. For instance, normally you can work your own hours. That means if you want to work from noon to 9, or if you want to work 16 hours a day and then take the next day off, you can do that. Within reason, obviously. If you have deadlines, you're still going to have to meet those. If you have meetings at specific times with your different clients, then you're going to have to be on for those as well. This also gives you the freedom to work on projects that you find interesting and working with people and companies that you enjoy working with. It also allows you to work from wherever you want, assuming that you can do the work, and this can be very liberating. Also, you tend to be paid much more for this kind of work, and yes, while you'll still be paying a lot more in taxes, at least in the US, because you don't have a company that you have to share the income with, you'll be getting a lot more in most cases. For example, from my personal experience, when I was working at an agency, I was making anywhere from $30 to $35 an hour, and when I went directly into contracting and freelance work, I was making $100 an hour for the same kind of work. Another great thing about freelance work is that you can usually do this in addition to another full-time job, and you can moonlight as a game engine dev, building your skills and repertoire until you're ready to jump into it full-time. And while all of this might sound amazing, there's a lot of things to keep in mind. Contracts are not just going to fall into your lap. You've got to find them. You've got to network with people. You've got to really put in the effort to market your skills and your services. It can take weeks or even months to find contracts that pan out for you, and this has been especially true over the last couple of years with the pandemic going on. Recently, it's been getting better, but we're still feeling the effects. Another thing to keep in mind, like I said earlier, if you're in the US, you're going to be paying a whole lot more in taxes. So when you are deciding on your hourly rate for contracting and freelancing, keep that in mind. Not only are you going to be paying more in taxes, but you got to pay for your own benefits. So that's talking about, health insurance, dental insurance, anything that might be coming with a benefits package at a full-time job. You're going to have to pay for that yourself. And of course, there's always the potential that you find a contract and you're working with the client and it turns out that the client sucks and that they make your life miserable. And maybe, you give up on that contract and then all that time ends up being for nothing. So be careful of that. Try to get a feel for clients when you're looking for them, whether they would be a good fit for you. So specifically talking about finding freelance work and contracts for Unity developers, there used to be this thing called Unity Connect, where that's basically what it was built for, companies looking for developers and matching them up together. But they've since discontinued that, and they have a huge section on their forums where you can go and find either developers if you're looking for somebody to do a Unity application for you, or if you're looking for work, companies post job postings, contracts, freelance stuff on there as well. Unreal also has a section in their forums for employers or developers to find work. You can find links to both of these in the description below. There's other websites that you can also find this kind of work on, such as LinkedIn or Indeed.com. In addition to online resources, I highly suggest you look at anything locally, any kind of startup programs or accelerators that might have lots of different companies coming through that you might be able to provide services to. And in general, it's good to build your network, but especially if you plan to go this route. The more people you know, the more likely it is you're going to find work. I've been doing freelance contract game engine development for the last 4 years on and off, and I highly recommend this path to people that want a bit more freedom, they have a bit of experience as a game engine developer, or if you're a person that just wants some extra income or wants to, hone their skills part-time in addition to another job. Next up is asset creation. So, have you ever made something in your games or projects with your game engine that you thought, hey, this would be really useful for other people? Well, go ahead, extract it, package it, and sell it on one of the asset stores. Unity and Unreal both have asset stores, but they are quite different. So Unity's asset store is much easier to get accepted to, and therefore there are a whole lot more assets on Unity's asset store. Unreal's marketplace, on the other hand, is a higher barrier to entry. They're a lot more strict with what they accept on the store, and therefore the assets are a lot higher quality. And while the quality of the Unity assets are not as high a lot of the time, it doesn't take a lot of searching to find dozens, if not hundreds of different assets that would be very useful in your projects. Personally, I've bought dozens of different Unity assets, and I have a couple of my own on the store that I sell there. I haven't personally published anything to Unreal's marketplace, so I don't really understand the process that you have to go through to do that, but I have been looking into it lately, and it's probably something that I'm going to end up doing sooner or later. There's no limit to the types of assets that you can put up on these stores. It can be a 3D model, a collection of shaders or materials. It could be a single script or an entire library. It can be a bit of a review process to get onto the stores, but if you do go through the process and you make the necessary changes, you do what you need to do, then it can be well worth getting that passive income of this asset selling on the store all hours of every day. And I know there can be a bit of a stigma around buying assets for your applications or your games, but I don't think that there's any reason for that, really. That's just like this elitist mentality that you have to do everything yourself, and in reality, that's not how things work. That's not how businesses work. And if you want to learn how to do these things yourself, by all means, do them. But a lot of people are just going to buy assets, and that's why these stores are so successful, and why people can make an entire living out of making packages, libraries, whatever it is, putting them on the store and selling them. So there's a couple reasons why I would personally buy something off the asset store, whether it's something that I don't have the skills to do, say it's like a 3D model or some kind of animation, and I needed that for my game, I could buy it off the store. Or if there's something, maybe it's a library that has a big chunk of functionality that I don't want to take the time to write myself, it would just be well worth it for me to buy it outright. I've done this several times. One of the latest assets that I bought that was pretty big was AV Pro, and this allows you to have different recording and video exporting functionality in your application. And that kind of a library would take me weeks, if not months, to write, when I could just spend a few $100s and get it right away. You can also buy assets and tweak them to make them work for what you want to do. That's what I did with the AV Pro asset in order to allow users to export a custom built video from our application. Some of my favorite assets on the Unity store are DoTween, a tweening library, and Trilib, which is this library for importing just about any 3D model type you can think of during runtime, which I don't know why Unity doesn't support this, but they've been saying they were going to for years and they still haven't. So Trilib for the win. If you're interested in any of those assets, then I've added links in the description below. Feel free to check those out. Also, there's a lot of free assets out there, so if you're going to be building assets for these stores, make sure that you're building something that's worth the price tag. Unreal Marketplace usually has a fantastic collection of limited time free assets that rotate in and out, so I would definitely recommend checking on the marketplace every now and then, seeing what free assets they have for you. You're not just limited to the Unreal and Unity stores either. You can put your assets on your own website and sell them for a price, or you can put it on a different marketplace such as TurboSquid or Gumroad.com. All of these will help you reach more people and hopefully make some money off of your assets. Having assets out there on these different websites means that you're going to be more easily found as well. So this can feed into the other ways of making money where, maybe somebody's looking for a contract or freelance game engine developer. They see that you've made these assets, and that leads to some contract work, or it leads to even full-time work if you put it in your portfolio and are able to show it off to people. There are some companies that do this as their main income, like Cinti Studios that builds the Polygon packs. They've just made many different assets, put them up on the Unity Asset Store for people to buy, and that's how they make all of their money. It might take time to build an asset that you feel is worthy of these marketplaces, but it's going to be a great source of passive income for you if you do get some assets out there. And if you don't need the money, or if you think that it would be better off as a free asset, you can always put it up on these stores as free. This leads me into the next topic, content creation. Content creation is very closely related to asset creation. And you can think of content creation as where I started and what I'm doing right now. YouTube videos are a form of content creation. I like to think of content as either entertaining, educational, or a mix of both. And we're not just limited to YouTube videos when talking about content creation. There's also blog posts, authoring books, possibly even creating online courses, and so much more. You can easily do a combination of these and maximize your different income streams, which I highly suggest that you do that if you're going to go the way of content creation. And there's a lot of different ways that you can make money off of your content. You can make money through ad revenue, through affiliate links, through subscriptions to your content, or maybe even just sell your content for a flat fee. And another great way to make money on content is through sponsorships, which leads me to today's sponsor. Yeah, no, I'm not sponsored. It's just me. Content creation is the thing that I love the most, and I keep coming back to over the years, and I'll probably continue to do it for as long as I can. I do want to warn you that making money on content creation usually takes a whole lot of time, or at least a lot of upfront work. For example, if you want to make money on YouTube, you've got to meet their monetization standards. So to hit those thresholds, you have to have 1,000 subscribers and a minimum of 4,000 watch hours in the last year. And while that might not seem too daunting, it can be years before you hit those thresholds, and that can be very disheartening to people. Platforms like Twitch also have similar thresholds that you have to meet before you can start making money or getting subscribers. Then there's the actual creation of the content. For each YouTube video that I make, I do a whole bunch of research. I draft out a script. I have to record everything, edit everything, upload the video to YouTube, create the title, description, tags, schedule it out, and all of this takes me days, if not weeks, to do for one video. Then, after you've gone through all of that to make your video or collection of videos, there's no guarantee that they'll get views or be successful at all. Personally, I do this because I love creating content. I love hearing your feedback and getting better and better, making better videos every time, and continuing to provide you guys with some quality content. Now, if we take a look at different types of content, like product-based content, which is something like writing a book or creating a course online, that has a large upfront time cost. And after you've made the thing, then you've got to market it and continue to get people to try to buy it, and there's no guarantee that they will. You could spend a year creating a book, writing a book, or creating a course, and then nobody ends up buying it. So there are those risks. But if you continue to create content and grow your audience at the same time, over time, you're going to start making money off of it, and eventually you'll be able to combine two of your passions together like I have, which is content creation and game engines. And I know I've been talking a little bit about online courses, and that leads us into the next topic, which is education. Education is a great way to make some money using your game engine skills. You could start by tutoring some students who are in game development programs, or even go as far as creating your own course online that people can buy. Since game development is growing as an industry and more colleges are supporting game programs, you could definitely get involved in that and become an adjunct professor teaching a course or two at your local college. More and more schools are offering game development related courses, especially with Unity and Unreal game engines. And I think in the future, the need for teachers is just going to grow because industries are starting to realize that these game engines are great tools for them as well. Also, the more the game industry grows, the more developers that are going to be needed, and more people are going to need to offer that kind of education. Of course, teaching these game engines requires some in-depth knowledge about them, so this isn't really something that beginners are going to be able to do, but for people with more experience, I think it's a great way and fulfilling way to make money with your game engine knowledge. Also, if there's some specific aspect of the game engines that you know really well, say for example you are an expert in dots with Unity or different render pipelines, then you could build a course around that specific thing and then sell it online. You can find examples of these courses on websites like Udemy or Skillshare. There's an absurd amount of them. That does mean that if you're going to make a course for online, that you have to do something unique or put a different spin on it, make it better than what's out there right now in order to get people's attention. However, if you can do that, again, great way to make some extra money. This topic is something that I'm particularly interested in at the moment, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. The next topic, which I've left for last for a reason, is probably the one that you guys are most looking forward to, making an indie game. From my experience, making an indie game is what most people would prefer to do, and I think most people would have the most fun doing, at least initially, but it's also one of the most difficult things to make money doing. On the one hand, you're getting to make a game, which is what most of us want to do. It's what we're passionate about. You have full creative control, you're able to do whatever you want, make whatever you want, and it's a blast. But a lot of people underestimate the effort that goes into making a game, especially a complete game that's going to be published and put out there for sale. This method is by far the largest upfront investment when looking at the time that it takes you to make it, as well as the money that you're going to spend to fill in all the gaps of your skills, like paying for 3D models or paying for somebody to do some art for you, those kinds of things. All of that adds up and can end up costing you a lot in time and in money. Also, the responsibility of making this work, making the indie game that makes you money, is up to you. The game lives or dies by you. So it can be really disheartening when you're putting a lot of time, a lot of effort, possibly a lot of money into this thing, and then it just falls flat and doesn't go anywhere. Most indie games that are started don't even get to the phase where they are prototyped, much less fully released, published, for sale games. Not being successful at doing this can be absolutely crushing, especially if you're trying to do it full time. I would definitely not recommend anyone try to do this full time unless you've had previous success doing it already. If you're just making indie games or developing little prototypes or whatever on your free time and doing it as a hobbyist, and you're going to release a game that way, 100% kudos to you. I think that that is a great way to do it, but don't expect that to be your breadwinner. Don't expect that to make you a bunch of money and let you go full-time into indie development, because it is very, very unlikely, and so many dreams have been crushed this way. Another thing to mention is that the market is highly saturated. If you look at Steam and look at the new and upcoming games, there's dozens every single day. And this is in part because game engines like Unity and Unreal are so accessible, and there are more games being released than ever before. All right, we've reached the final stretch. I have one last topic that I want to cover, and it's a bonus topic. I don't really consider this too viable. I think it's only going to apply to maybe 1%, maybe even less than 1% of the viewers that watch this video. But for somebody, if it becomes an option for them and they take it and run with it, it could be life-changing. So the bonus option is to start a company. Now, when I say company, I don't mean start an indie game development company. I'm talking about starting a startup, co-founding or founding a startup with the intent to use Unity or Unreal to build software that will then be sold for that business. This business will be built off of a Unity or Unreal application. There are a lot of different ways to go about this, but I'm going to talk about my personal experience and going with startups. A lot of cities in the US have programs where startups can get resources and funding in order to start their business. If you can go to one of these programs and pitch your business plan using, something related to Unreal or Unity and get funding, then you can create a business this way. This also doesn't necessarily have to be you. Many businesses and companies go through this process and they need a technical co-founder, or they need somebody who's an expert in Unreal or an expert in Unity in order to make the business work. So you can actually jump on to another company or another project as a co-founder, as a technical co-founder is what it's called. Applying to these programs or just building the network of people in these programs is going to greatly help you in the future, whether you're just doing the startup route or if you want to do the contract freelance route later on, or literally are looking for a full-time job later in your life. All of these people are going to be connected to so many other people, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. I will say that the startup life is not usually easy. It usually requires a lot of work, especially if you're a co-founder or a founder of a company. And this is only something for the true entrepreneurial people that also are involved in game engine development. But also there's no guarantee that it's going to be a success, similar to the indie game, but maybe you can get funding and you can get some money so you can make some money while you're building this product, and at least then you're not doing it for nothing. My personal experience with this happened to be, I was at a networking event. I met a guy, a filmmaker, who had this great idea to do some 3D pre-visualization software for filmmakers, and it was a perfect fit for my skills. And so we came together, went through an accelerator program, got funding, built a team together, built a product, and now it's out there. It's called Filmatic if you're interested. It is a film pre-production software built in Unity. All right, I hope everybody enjoyed it. That's about it for our topics today. What do you think? Is there something I missed, or do you think I got something wrong? Please let me know in the comments down below. I love to hear your feedback. I want to make these videos better for you and for me. This topic of making money, whether it's passive or active income with game engines, is very close to my heart. I've tried many different ways. I've had different levels of success, but I've had a whole lot of fun doing it, and I hope that you guys do as well. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you want to see more content like this in the future, feel free to subscribe. I hope to see you all out there achieving your dreams as developers and blazing your own trail. I'll see you next time. Awesome. Oh yeah, buddy. Thank you, Leo. I love you.